All right. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Wow. Good morning. Everybody's awake.
I want to wake you up.
That would be a good idea today. All right. So we've made it through the first three chapters of Genesis, which to me are the hardest chapters to try to get through. And we've gone through creation of the full creation, and then creation of humans, and the fall of humans last week in Genesis 3. Now we're to Genesis 4. So Adam and Eve have been sent out of the Garden of Eden, and now they're going to continue on with their life, and we're going to see how humans expand somewhat. We're going to see what trouble we can get into, or they can get into. So, chapter 4, verse 1 and 2. Adam made love to his wife Eve, and she became pregnant, and she gave birth to Cain. She said, "With the help of the Lord, I have brought forth a man." Later, she gave birth to his brother Abel. Okay, so Adam and Eve leave, and they finally start fulfilling the task God gave them of filling the earth. So they have a child, and Eve names him Cain, which means brought forth or acquired in Hebrew. And as I was doing this week, I thought, wait, did Adam and Eve know Hebrew? No, probably not. What's going on here is Cain's original name was not Cain. That's his Hebrew name. But whatever language was going on at that time, his name meant brought forth or acquired. And so when Moses is doing this, he just puts it into the Hebrew language as Cain. Okay? That way we don't think, well, Adam and Eve knew Hebrew. Hebrew was a later dialect, later language. So she has Cain. She gave birth to Cain. That's her firstborn. And she gave credit to God. With help from God, I have brought forth a man. And then later, she had his younger brother, Abel. Okay, so we have two kids, Cain and Abel. I'm sure everyone has heard about Cain and Abel. But we're going to talk about them again anyway. Continuing on in verse 2. Now Abel kept flocks, and Cain worked the soil. So you have two occupations here. You have a shepherd and a crop farmer. Abel, being the youngest, kept the flocks, kept the sheep or goats or whatever they had. And even in 1 Samuel chapter 16, we see that it is always the younger children who tend to keep the flocks, unless they're too young to do that. In 1 Samuel, David is out keeping the flock. Okay, he was the youngest of the children, so he kept the flock. Abel gets to keep the flocks, which really is the easier of the two tasks. Because if you remember, when God cursed Adam, what was the curse? Toil, toil, and trouble. Yeah. No, that's not right. That's Shakespeare. Yes, he was going to have to really work hard at getting something to grow in the land. In other words, Adam became me, who can't grow anything. That's why I'm glad for grocery stores. So Cain had the harder job of trying to grow crops. The older had the harder job. Verse 3. Now, in the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. And Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. Okay, we're going to stop right there. And we're going to explain what's going on here because we don't have the Hebrew wording in this. So it says that Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering. And this idea within the Hebrew language, the way it's said, is he just brought some. He brought his leftovers, whatever he could spare, whatever he didn't want, he brought it to present to God. Which means that to Cain, God wasn't all that important. It's like, okay, so we're going to do these sacrifice things. I'll throw some stuff in there. Okay. It's worse than regifting. All right. So Cain just throws some stuff at him. However, Abel brought an offering. Fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. This was the best, the firstborn. So he's thinking of God first, and it is the best of the flock. It is the fat portions. Now, in order for this to be a legitimate sacrifice, that he's giving up the best of the fat portions, means they had to have been eating meat at that point. That this really was a sacrifice of meat, of his food, his best food to God. So for Abel, God's very important. So the attitudes are Cain, God's not that important. Abel, God is very important. Okay, so you already have these two lines starting to occur. So continuing on in verse 4. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry and his face was downcast. So okay. So God is reacting not to the sacrifices. Some people say, oh, well, Cain's was rejected because it was just vegetable. Okay. It's like going someplace and getting a soy burger. God didn't like it. Abel's was accepted because it was meat. It was a blood sacrifice. And that's not right. God would have accepted the best from Cain. That's what he had to give. God accept, if we want to give God the best of what we have, God will accept it. It doesn't matter what it is. It was the heart and attitude that God was looking at and rejecting. He rejected Cain's gift because Cain really didn't want to give the gift in the first place. He was just giving him whatever was left over, whatever he could scoop up and throw in there. Whereas Abel, his heart was toward God. He wanted to give God what was best. And so God says that gift is accepted because of your attitude. You are wanting to give me what is best. And so God reacts to the heart of Cain and Abel, not to their sacrifice. Now, Cain, he gets angry and his face is downcast because God's not accepting his sacrifice. I'm not sure why he really cared, but he did. Maybe it's because he was the older brother. He probably wanted to be up on top of Abel. You know, God likes me best. Well, God likes you best. I don't like that. Okay. So Cain is angry and he's downcast because he's not being accepted. This leads to verses 6 to 7, which is a confrontation between God and Cain. Verse 6. Then the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it. All right, so God kind of interrogates Cain here. Why are you angry? He's trying to get him to figure out what is going on here. Why are you angry? Why do you care that Abel's is accepted and yours is not? Why is that important to you? Is it because you want to love me more than Abel does? Or because you want to look better than Abel does? Why are you not smiling? In other words, this whole thing is affecting his life all day. It's not just a simple thing. When they come to do sacrifices, he gets angry. This is affecting him. It is churning inside of him. If you do what's right, won't you be accepted? In other words, if you have the proper attitude, Cain, if you really are doing this because you love me, then won't you be accepted? That's what's going on with Abel. I'm accepting his. I can accept both of yours. It's not like I can only accept one. If you will do what's right, if you will give me the best that I deserve. I mean, think it. He's talking to God here, the one who created everything, the one who provides everything. Shouldn't he be given the best? I'll let you think about that while you agree. So if you do like Abel, what is right, give me what is best. Show me the way. You're showing me the way you really feel. Abel is showing the way he really feels. You're showing me the way you really feel. If you really feel the right way towards me, then you will be accepted. If you do not do what is right, sin will overtake you, but you must overcome sin. See, God already knows that this rebellion, this pushing against him, is going to cause sin within, to grow within Cain. He's already sinning by pushing against God. But it's going to lead to a darker sin. This anger is going to burst forth. You know, anger is okay as long as you don't act on it, as long as you don't let it eat you up. That's what Cain was doing. He was letting this anger just eat at him. And as it ate at him, it was growing and it was going to spill out and hurt somebody. So if you do what's right, you have the proper attitude towards God, a relationship with God, then sin won't overtake you. But you're in the wrong place, Cain. Cain's reaction, verse 8. Now Cain said to his brother Abel, let's go out to the field. While they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Okay, there's a problem. So Cain, God was right. That sin just burst forth. Cain had had enough. He didn't want his little brother overshadowing him anymore. So he takes him out. He says, hey, let's go out to the field. I don't know how he lured him out there. It's like, you know, I saw a sheep that may be lame. Maybe we should go check it out. Gets him out there and he kills him. It doesn't say how he kills him. We assume it's with a rock or something. Maybe he just took his neck and twisted. I don't know. But Cain killed him. Killed his brother, fratricide. That was a result of his attitude toward God. You see, Cain wanted God to accept his sacrifice on his terms. He wanted God to do what he wanted to do. He didn't want to do what God wanted him to do. And it leads to murder. Okay, so Jessica Fletcher shows up and solves crime. No, that's not right. Verse 9, then the Lord God said to Cain, where is your brother, Abel? No, where's your brother, Abel? There we go. Get the right. Can we just stop now and I'll just... Where's your brother, Abel? I don't know, he replied. Am I my brother's keeper? The Lord said, what have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. All right, so we have an interrogation and a trial going on here at the same time. So God says, all right, so where's Abel? This is the same type of situation where when Adam and Eve were hiding, God says, well, where are you? God knew where he was. God knew what had happened to Abel, but he wants Cain to admit it. Here's your chance, Cain. Admit it. You killed your brother. Instead, Cain gets snarky with God. I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? I mean, come on, God. You're supposed to know everything. You don't know where he is? Why is that my responsibility? God doesn't respond to that. He says, okay, that's your attitude. But you know, there is a response to that. Am I my brother's keeper? What's the answer to that? Yes, we are. Because we are to love God and love others. And unfortunately, brothers are others. Actually, in my case, it's fortunately because I'm the younger brother. Oh, yes, you are your brother's keeper. No peanut gallery comments. So he asked, what have you done? One more time. He's trying to get him to own up to what he's done. What have you done? What have you done? And then he says, all right, listen. Your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. God identified the crime or the victim, the crime, and the cover-up, all in that one sentence. Your brother, Abel, is the victim. His blood means you killed him. He's crying out to me from the ground. From the ground means you tried to cover him up, bury him. I've often wondered, what was the conversation like when he went home that night to Adam and Eve? Where's your brother? I don't know him. I'm a brother's keeper. Maybe what he said to Adam and Eve. But God knew, and the trial was over. You're guilty. You know you're guilty. I know you're guilty. You have murdered. You have killed your brother. So now comes the sentencing phase, verse 11 and 12. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth. So we know that because of Adam, Cain was already having trouble getting stuff from crops from the ground. Now it's going to produce absolutely nothing. So Cain has become me. Okay, can't get anything to grow. So how is he going to live? It's going to be a problem. So God has told Cain, because you put your brother in the ground, I don't know what would have happened if you put him in a tree, but because you put your brother in the ground is not going to yield anything for you anymore. Period. It's done. And you're going to become a restless wanderer on the earth. He is going to be banished from the rest of the family. Just like Adam and Eve were banished from the garden, he is now going to be banished from family. Now, Cain's response is to whine. No, he has legitimate questions here. Verse 13. Cain said to the Lord, my punishment is more than I can bear. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. Okay, so 4 grievances here by Cain. Number 1, he's unable to get food from the land. So driving me from the land. He's unable to get food from the land. More than that, that would be okay if he was still within society, because in society he could still get food from other people. But God is sending him out, and he can't get anything from the land. What then is his alternative? What did Abel do other than die before he died? He was a shepherd. So guess what, Cain? You're going to have to be a shepherd. You can't get anything from the land, but you can still get meat from a flock. And every day he's going to have to be reminded about Abel. As he tends that flock, he's going to have to remember. Yeah. Back up. He's going to remember his killing of Abel every time he has to slaughter a sheep to get food, the blood. See, God does know how to judge fairly. So he's going to be unable to get food from the land and be reminded of Abel every day. He's hidden from God's presence. Now, I really don't see why that mattered to him until now. He didn't really care about God. God, you can have the leftovers. I don't really care whether you're here or not. I'm going to be snarky to you when you accuse me of killing somebody. But now all of a sudden, he is concerned about God's presence. Maybe he had to come to Jesus meeting before there was Jesus. He may be turning just a little bit toward God, or it may just be an excuse. He'll be separated from humanity. So that's important, because when you think about even how we live today, I can't do crops, but somebody else can. I can't sew, but somebody else can. Whatever I can't do, there's somebody in society that can fill that gap. He is going to be without anyone to fill that gap. So he's going to have to learn to sew and all this other stuff, how to find water, everything. He will have no backup, no support system with him.
Was the earth populated when this was going on? I mean, for a long time, I just thought there was Adam, Eve, Cain, and Abel.
There's Adam, Eve, Cain, Abel, and probably some other brothers and sisters.
Okay.
Yeah. So not very many people there. So he didn't have to move too far away. I mean, he could move to Jeff City and that'd be far enough away.
But that last sentence, I will be a restless wanderer on earth, and whoever finds me will kill me, kind of implies that his brothers and sisters or mom and dad will kill him.
Yeah, that's the last thing. He has this fear of death. Why? Because everyone was related to Abel. And they all probably liked Abel, probably didn't like Cain. Considering his attitude towards things, he may not have been the favorite person to be around. So they all had the right to kill Cain in revenge of Abel. And God says, yeah, that's a problem.
So was Cain not the first?
Cain was the
Yeah.
firstborn.
But
Eight.
sisters, they would be younger.
Yeah, they'll all be younger. Cain, then Abel, then you have a bunch of younger ones, and Seth is going to come along too. Yeah. All right, 15 and 16. But the Lord said to him, not so. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over. Then the Lord put a mark on Cain so that no one who found him would kill him. So Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. So God just kind of overlooks that overrules that last objection. He says, look, Cain, whoever tries to kill you, if they kill you in vengeance, now they could accidentally kill you, but if they kill you in vengeance, then they will suffer 7 times what I just did to you. 7 times more. In other words, God was not going to allow this vengeance thing to deplete the population. Because think about what happens. Okay, so Cain killed Abel. Relatives kill Cain. Relatives killed the person who killed Cain because they killed Cain. Relatives killed the person who killed Cain. And it goes on, and before you know it, you're down back to Adam and Eve. Isn't that the way the world still works? I'm going to take revenge on you, and well, you killed my brother, so I'm going to kill you. You killed my brother, I'm going to kill you. And that's the way we get wars and everything going on. God says, nope, we're going to stop it right here. Now, I'm sure Cain thought, well, how are people going to know? God gave Cain a mark. And there is a lot of dumb, almost said stupid, well, I did say stupid, dumb stuff about the mark. In fact, way back, people were using this as a means or reason to say that certain people were not human. I'll just say it. Back in the 1860s, they were saying slaves, black people were not human because they had the mark of Cain. That's not even close to what this is talking about. All right? It is a mark on Cain, not any of his descendants. Cain only. And we don't know whether God just put loser up here or what. But he was a mark on Cain only, not on any of his descendants. To use this to try to put down and abuse other people is just horrendous. And it's abhorrent to God. So the mark is on Cain only. So Cain is marked for protection. He is now going to move to Nod, which is further east. Well, it's east of Eden. He was already east of Eden. He's probably going further east. Nod means wandering. Now, something hit me this week. Well, a lot of things hit me, but some things stick. Think about the people who were listening to this the first time. Hearing Moses tell this about this event. What are they doing at this point? They are wandering in the wilderness. Outside of the rest of humanity, they are a unit to themselves. I'm sure they can kind of identify with Cain. And why were they there? Why were they wandering and not already in the promised land? Because when God said, hey, go in the promised land, look it over, come back, give a report, and then we're going in. What did they do? They went in, they looked, and then they came back and didn't give a report exactly about, oh, well, it looks great. They came back and said, we can't take it. There's no way we can do this. They rebelled against God. The same thing Cain was doing. They are wandering for the same reason Cain is wandering in the earth. Verse 17. Cain made love to his wife. Okay, we will stop right there. Where did the wife come from? Well, God didn't create another wife. She was one of the sisters. You say, ew. But remember, they had no choice at this point. Now, and the genetics was much better then too. Now, once humans got to the size population where there were family units, God said no more on the sister thing. But right now, Cain had no alternative but to take a sister with him. Could have been. It was a close relative. Don't think he was a cousin. Like a sister, niece, somewhere, probably sister at this point. So Cain made love to his wife, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Enoch. Cain was then building a city, and he named it after his son Enoch. To Enoch was born Arad. Arad was the father of Mehujael. Mehujael was the father of Methusael, and Methusael was the father of Lamech. And I really wish they just used like John, Sam. Anyway, so he has a child with his wife, and what's he doing? What is Cain doing? He's not wandering anymore. What's he doing? He's building a city. All right, so Cain is building a city, a place where people will congregate, at least his family will congregate. So he's no longer wandering in the wilderness. He is no longer alone. All these things, he doesn't have to do crops or sheep anymore. He can live in the city and have these people take care of him. He's pretty much undoing everything God cursed him with. But God allows it. And he has this family. And he had a son named Enoch. And he names the city Enoch. So the city of Enoch was built by Cain. And then he has all these other Enoch on down to Arad, Mehujael, Methusael, and to Lamech. Okay, so what is that, 5 generations? Yeah, 5 generations from Cain. We come to Lamech. Now we're going to see Moses uses this quite often in the early stages of this writing. He takes the genealogy and uses it as a transition. So he's moved us all the way from Cain to Lamech, who is going to be his next topic. Okay. But before we get there, what is the picture of God that we're getting? Well, in chapter 1, God was powerful, intelligent, and creative. Chapter 2, God's relational and loving towards humans. Chapter 3, God is moral and just. And so far in chapter 4, we find that God is merciful. He didn't just take out Cain. He made Cain so he could survive. And he is present. You would have thought that once Adam and Eve had sinned and rejected God, that God would have said, okay, that's it. I'm done with humanity. You guys get out of the garden. I'm leaving. But he didn't. God is still with them, even with Cain. And so God remains present. There are some who think that God just created the world and then that was it. He didn't have anything else to do with it. It's not what we see in Scripture. Okay. Now let's get to Lamech. Verse 19, Lamech married 2 women. Okay, so we're already seeing a problem here. First of all, remember that as God created male and female, towards the end of chapter 1 there, he said, for this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and marry his wife and be with his wife. 1 wife, not 2. So Lamech is already showing that he's not too concerned about God. He is following Cain for sure. So Lamech married 2 women, one named Ada and the other Zillah. Ada gave birth to Jabal. He was the father of those who live in tents and raise livestock. So Jabal kind of goes with Cain on this, right? He's a wanderer. He lives in tents and he raises livestock. His brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all who play stringed instruments and pipes. So Jubal is the one who set up the club in the city. Okay. Zillah also had a son, Tubal-Cain, who forged all kinds of tools out of bronze and iron. So this guy was good with working with metal. Tubal-Cain's sister was Naamah. There's an oddity for you. You do not normally see a female in a genealogy. In fact, that's why we have some problems with the genealogies. We don't always see all of the children. We do see the important males. So like the firstborn, maybe the secondborn if necessary. We do not see the women. Why? Because it was a patriarchal society. Remember what God told Eve? Your husband is going to rule over you. He's going to take this and rule over you. And that's what's happened. But for some reason, Naamah is in there, and we don't know why. She must have been important somehow. So Lamech said to his wives, Ada and Zillah, listen to me. Let's get this picture of him. Hey, you guys, listen to me. Big dude. Wives of Lamech, hear my words. I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for injuring me. If Cain is avenged 7 times, then Lamech 77 times. Okay, Lamech has issues. So we've already talked about his family, these kids that he had. And now he's coming in to his wives and saying, I've killed a man for wounding me. We don't know whether the guy just, accidentally took one of the metal things that Tubal-Cain had and sliced his arm, sliced his finger, whatever. He wounded him somehow. Wasn't very much. It was just a wound. He's obviously all right because he's walking around talking to his wives. But because this guy wounded me, I killed him. That is my right. So, if Cain is avenged 7 times, and because Cain had no right to kill Abel, then I should be avenged 77 times because I had the right to kill this guy. Lamech's form of justice is what a lot of people have today. If I'm the victim, that guy deserves a stronger punishment than what he did for me, against me. And that's the way we think. You come and you steal something from me, well, I'll just kill you for that. God does away with this actually in Exodus, Leviticus, and Deuteronomy in the law with the eye for an eye law. Under eye for an eye, it doesn't mean that that's what is exacted of the person. Eye for an eye is given because that is the most you can take from that person. If he puts out your eye, you can only put out his eye. You can't go and kill him. If he breaks your finger, then you can go break his finger. If he steals from you, then you can steal from him. That is the most. That's not saying that that is exactly what you have to do, because God embraces mercy. But God put a cap on the punishment. This guy has no cap. He's just going to go, he just went out and killed this guy, and he thinks he's justified because of it. That is where humanity has gotten to. And 6 generations from the fall to a murder to I can murder because I want to. At least he didn't come in and say, I killed a man in Reno just to watch him die. That'll be later with trying to catch him. So what we have seen, we're seeing a progression here of sin or evil. In chapter 3, we saw sin that hurts the individual. It hurt Adam and Eve. It also hurt others, but at the time, it was hurting Adam and Eve. And then in chapters 4, 1 through 16, which was Cain and Abel, we saw sin that hurts others. Cain's sin was actually against someone else. And now in verse 23 through 24, we see sin that is excused. I killed a man, but it's okay. In fact, it's more than okay. If anybody says anything about it, they're wrong and they need to be executed too. So we have sin that hurts individuals, we have sin that hurts others, and we have sin that's excused. And we see the same thing throughout humanity today. Verse 25, Adam made love to his wife again, and she gave birth to a son and named him Seth, saying, God has granted me another child in place of Abel, since Cain killed him. Now Seth also had a son, and he named him Enosh. At that time, people began to call on the name of the Lord. So Adam and Eve had another son. There are other children mixed in there too. And they had a son named Seth. Seth is a replacement for Abel. And Seth had a son, called him Enosh. And notice this phrase, at that time, people began to call on the name of the Lord. Here we are setting up between Lamech and Enosh. This line of Cain is still refusing to live like God wants them to live. You have the line of Seth, though, with Enosh. They're worshiping God. They are calling the name of the Lord. They are looking at God. They are wanting to live the way God wants them to live. Now, think about the original audience on this. They're listening to Moses do this, recount these events. They have a decision to make because not only is not only is Moses doing this, but he's also giving them the 10 Commandments and the rest of the law, how to build a tabernacle, etc. The people have a choice, the same choice people have here. Are you going to follow the line of Cain and refuse God? Are you going to follow the line of Seth and accept God? That's your choice. So does that make a little more sense as to why these events are listed in here? God is trying to give these people a message. You're wanderers because you sinned like Cain. You have a choice to make now. Are you going to follow me or follow the line of Cain? Reject me. Here's what happened to each one of these. What result do you want? All right, chapter 5. Now, chapter 5 is a transition to Noah. Okay? Like I said, when genealogies pop in early on here, Moses is taking them as a transition. So he's going to take us from Enosh to Noah in chapter 5, which will be his next major focus. So this is the written account of Adam's family line. When God created mankind, he made them in the likeness of God. He created them male and female and blessed them, and he named them mankind when they were created. I'm going to stop right there because this is a huge, interesting point. So he's referring back to 126 to 28, where God made human, male and female. He created them. Now, the way he is stating this is a little bit odd. So God created male and female as mankind. The Hebrew is as Adam, man. Male and female were both considered man. Let that sink in for a little bit. Mankind. They were equals. They were together. So while we have male and female, they are all human. They are all mankind. Okay, Adam. So, and he named them mankind when they were created. They named them Adam. All right. When Adam had lived 130 years, he had a son in his own likeness, in his own image, and he named him Seth. After Seth was born, Adam lived 800 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Adam lived a total of 930 years, and then he died. When Seth had lived 105 years, he became the father of Enos. After he became the father of Enos, Seth lived 807 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Seth lived a total of 912 years, and then he died. When Enos had lived 90 years, he became the father of Kenan. After he became the father of Kenan, Enos lived 815 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Enos lived a total of 905 years, and then he died. When Kenan had lived 70 years, he became the father of Mahalalel. After he became the father of Mahalalel, Kenan lived 840 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Kenan lived a total of 910 years, and he died. When Mahalalel had lived 65 years, he became the father of Jared. After he became the father of Jared, Mahalalel lived 830 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Mahalalel lived a total of 895 years, and then he died. Okay, I'm going to pause right there because I'm tired. So when we come to this, we see all these numbers and these names and stuff, and it just, so all he is doing is giving this list. Now, there have been some people who have taken this list, and because he lived this long and then had this kid and then lived this long and had this kid, they have gone through, and this is back in the 1800s. A man went through and added all this up and got it together and said, okay, the earth is 6,000 years old. Okay, I'm not going to dispute his math. However, the more we get into this, the more we understand that this is not a full genealogy. There is more there to it. So we don't fully understand what Moses is doing here with the numbers. So does it tell us the age of the earth? If you want to, okay. But is that what's important? No. I mean, it took them until the 1800s before anybody saw that this was even close to being important. These long lives, these 900 years that these people are living, as my mother says, what would you find to eat for breakfast every day? 900 years. That just can't possibly be right. But yes, it could. Remember, this is very early on in human history. And the gene pool was very strong. There weren't that many viruses around. And even if they did, you didn't have to wear a mask because there weren't that many people around. There weren't enough things to transmit. So yeah, they probably could live to 900 years, especially if they're eating a lot of vegetables. But God did not put this in here to tell us how old the earth is or to impress us with long lives. There are other reasons for this. And I'm going to leave you hanging. That's what they are. There are other reasons. There are more important things to focus on, and we're going to see one right now. I already covered that. Seth had other sons and daughters, and the people had a choice which line they were going to follow. Enosh. Okay, so we've gone through Kenan, Mahalalel, Jared, and now in verse 18, Enoch. When Jared had lived 162 years, he became the father of Enoch. After he became the father of Enoch, Jared lived 800 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Jared lived a total of 962 years, and then he died. See that refrain? And then he died, and then he died, and then he died. Verse 21, when Enoch had lived 65 years, boy, he was a young coot. Everybody else waited till like 100 and some before they had a child. Enoch just got right to it, 65. I wonder what the age was for driver's license then. When Enoch had lived 65 years, he became the father of Methuselah. After he became the father of Methuselah, Enoch walked faithfully with God 300 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Enoch lived a total of 365 years. Enoch walked faithfully with God, then he was no more because God took him away. What was missing from that story? He didn't die. So this line of Seth go down, 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 and all of a sudden, here's this guy, Enoch. Enoch. And you would kind of expect the way humans are that we would just keep getting further and further away from God, even in the godly line. Enoch shows us, no, there's at least one person that was getting closer to God. He was so close to God, he actually walked with God like Adam and Eve did in the garden. And one day God said, hey, why don't you just come on with me? You don't need to go back there. Come on. And Enoch did. And he just disappeared. He was no more on this earth. He was with God. Imagine explaining that to his wife and kids. I have to destroy stuff here. So here, verse 25. When Methuselah, and we probably all know about Methuselah. I mean, we have the saying, it's as old as Methuselah, right? Never say that to a woman. When Methuselah had lived 187 years, he became the father of Lamech. Not the same Lamech we read about earlier, okay? Different Lamech. After he became the father of Lamech, Methuselah lived 782 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Methuselah lived a total of 969 years and then he died. He is the oldest recorded human. But once again, then he died.
When did they die?
Old age. Either old age or boredom, one of the two. After 962 years, what can you find that would be new? When Lamech had lived 182 years, he had a son. He named him Noah and said, he will comfort us in the labor and painful toil of our hands caused by the ground the Lord is cursed. After Noah was born, Lamech lived 595 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Lamech lived a total of 777 years, and then he died. So Methuselah lived 969 years. Lamech now has a son that he names Comfort, and in the Hebrew, that is translated to Noah. And what was he hoping for? Someone who could get stuff to grow. He needed an agricultural person because things just weren't growing there. Maybe it was a drought. We don't know. According to the story later on, there hadn't been rain, so maybe it was a drought. So Noah was built to be a comfort, meant to be a comfort. And Lamech had no idea how comforting Noah really would be later on. So after Noah was 500 years old, he became the father of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now, we don't know if, because it says after Noah was 500 years old, if these three are triplets, or because it doesn't say, okay, he's 500 years old and then five, whatever, just after 500 years old, or if they were Shem first, Ham second, Japheth second, third. Probably it was one after another. After he was 500 years old. They just didn't want to give the exact dates and give away the kids' ages. Okay. So we are now to Noah. See how fast Moses was able to get us from Cain and Abel, to Lamech, all the way to Noah, because he's using this genealogy, right? So Noah was the original my three sons. Older people will get that, younger people will not.
Where's Uncle Charlie?
Yeah, where's Uncle Charlie? So it is easier to see where God is leading when you know where God has been. And that was really true for these people listening to this. Cain and Abel, you know, you had those two lines separating. And now Cain and Seth, which line are we going to do? This is what God did to this line. This is what God did to this line. What do we want? And so when we look back and see what God's done, it is easier to see where God is leading. Now, next week, we will get into the flood. So bring your snorkel.